Two dudes watch cartoons. 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 Two dudes watch cartoons.
Welcome back to Two Dudes Watch Cartoons, the podcast where two dudes, that's us, watch cartoons. My name is Evan.
And my name is Alex, and I say this every time, but we got a good one. We got an exciting one. I need to think of something new to say because this one is above and beyond expectations today, ladies and gentlemen. Mm-hmm. So, Evan, well, I'll just get into it. Today we are covering The Fantastic Mr. Fox by Wes Anderson. Mm-hmm. When's the last time before we were covering this that you had seen this movie?
Probably a couple of years back, and I think I slept through some of it. So I don't know that I've ever actually watched the entirety of it until this time around. But I am a big Wes Anderson fan. Mm-hmm. I think I've seen the majority of his movies, maybe not all of them, but generally I love his stuff. And yeah, this one does not disappoint. This one is right up there.
It's just as Wes Anderson-y as any of his other films. So here's me with Wes Anderson. Love Wes Anderson. He's got some of the best movies of all time. Love his style. The last thing I saw from him, though, was The French Dispatch, which I ain't gonna lie was ass. It was so
you
bad.
Didn't like it?
I did not.
Man.
Did you? Did you see it?
I did watch it. It's him being Wes Anderson, you know. It's,
maybe I need to give it another watch. It was late. We saw it in theaters. I was a little stoned. I remember feeling very confused throughout a decent part of it.
Sure.
Which I guess can happen in a Wes Anderson film, but doesn't normally happen. So now we're just jumping around. My favorite Wes Anderson film is Moonrise Kingdom.
Love Moonrise Kingdom.
I think it may be like a top 10 film ever, in my opinion. So after The French Dispatch, my Wes Anderson love was just I hadn't turned on him. I'm not like no, but like I just hadn't thought about him in a while. So watching this movie again, holy cuss. I cannot believe how exciting this movie this was I experienced every range of emotion. I laughed, I teared up, I was emotional. I felt sick to my stomach at one point. I said, oh. What a great fucking... Sorry, now I broke the trend. I was going to try to say
what
cuss
a great
for everything.
Cussing, yeah.
That was one of the more unexpected, hilarious parts when he's like, you cussing at me? He's like, cuss? Well, I'm cussing. It was so great.
Yeah.
I'll let you go. You go.
Go for it.
No, I don't even know what I'm just going to keep rambling on about how awesome this is.
I was going to say, so French Dispatch, I watched it at home, so I didn't watch it in theater, so maybe that adds to my okayness with it.
Yeah.
I think maybe it's not top tier Wes Anderson, but it is sort of Wes Anderson at his most Wes Anderson.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about it today. I feel like Wes Anderson is the antithesis to Tim Burton. He's like the anti-Tim Burton.
Bro, I had a similar
and I love
thought
everything about that.
They're both claymation, and it was colorful. It was the dialogue is fast. You're right. It is the opposite of Tim Burton's.
And I'm all
That's
for
so
it.
funny.
I love it
Yeah.
so much more.
No. I mean, this, I'm not kidding when I say like this actually fired on every fucking cylinder. The animation, the claymation, right? It's a claymation movie.
It's puppets. I don't know. It's stop motion, but it's not.
But they're puppets.
Yeah. Yes.
Wow. Wait, what? That's so cool. Okay. Whatever. It was
Not
beautifully done.
like string puppets, but it's like they're like little figures you can.
I thought they were marionettes.
Wouldn't that be great?
I thought they were little marionettes. Okay, yeah, no. I'm picturing what you're saying now because they have like fur. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
But yeah, not all aesthetics, but heavily leaning into it. Yeah, a lot of vibes. And it definitely is an aesthetic in itself.
The other thing, though, our complaint with the Tim Burton thing is the theme was really muddled. Not in this movie. I felt like we can talk about this, but there's a couple of themes I think at play here that were really strong and really good. I mean, the first one, I think the most obvious is like greed is bad, or I don't know. Like, if I had to boil it down,
So that wasn't my big takeaway.
well, okay, hit me with it.
My big takeaway, this movie is about a man or a fox struggling with his pride and his ego and figuring out who he is outside of what he does or what he used to do, which is like thieving, and like who is he beyond that? Who is he as a father? And now that you mentioned Moonrise Kingdom, it seems almost like a nice bookend to that, even though it came long before that, or maybe a couple of years before that. But like Moonrise Kingdom is very much about like young love, adolescence, those very early feelings, and then Fantastic
this is-
Mr. Fox is like something I feel like maybe we could both relate to. Is like, who are we beyond the thing that we do,
Work your
what-
job, yeah.
your job, that kind of thing.
Loved so they were like 2 years, which is 12 Fox years, and they had like so good. But so yeah, you're right. So they're having a baby, and she says, "I want you to find a new line of work. I don't want you to be a thief anymore." Which so classic. That's his job, because that's what foxes do: is they sneak into barns and they kill. Like it's so clever. Oh, you know what? We got to take it back. Before we start diving into all of this, I do want to talk about this was a book by the author Ronald Dahl.
Rolled
Roald Dahl. Okay.
doll.
Roald Dahl. Okay. Do you know about this guy? Have you read anything about? I mean, obviously you know a little about him, but do you know about him?
I don't like. I know his other big works: James and the Giant Peach, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory,
I'm gonna blow your
Matilda.
mind.
I didn't know that one. Matilda.
Yeah, he's
those
got
are the
an
ones, yeah.
amazing catalog of literature that he wrote.
Mm-hmm.
He's a British. I'm going to get into the spoilers of this. He is a British spy turned children's author. I'm not even making this up. I learned this from an episode of Drunk History, and he he was a spy. First he was in the Navy or the Air Force. He was in the Air Force for a long time. Then he turned to intelligence. He was a spy, and he had like a very successful spy career. And then when he retired, he just made the most banging stories of all time that like have lived on past his life. Yeah,
That's really
I know.
cool.
It's really wild, but I thought that's a fun fact.
What is it with British intelligence or British servicemen going into the arts? There's Roald Dahl. There's Christopher Lee, who we talked about a
talked
couple
about Christopher
episodes.
Lee.
Ian Fleming, the James
There's-
Bond author, I'm pretty sure was.
There's got to be something about war.
But
Where-
okay, why doesn't that happen in the U.S.? We get like American Sniper with Bradley Cooper. Like we don't get great works of art. You know what I mean?
Roasted. British people are more cultured. That's all it is. That's literally all it is.
They retire from their service and they're like, I'm just gonna vibe out and chill for like, write little children's stories. That's fascinating that he was a spy.
Yeah. But that's the origins. But we were on a good roll of themes, so I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
But let's get back to that. So you were mentioning we can kind of relate to the excuse me, at this point he's just a Mr. Fox. He's not a quote unquote fantastic Mr. Fox. So
Yeah.
he was a thief, stealing birds, and they're having a baby, and his wife is like, you can't die. And she's like, you need to find a new line of work. So he becomes he works at the newspaper, the local newspaper. He's got a blurb. And I'm not going to lie to you, the fact that you said we can relate to him, I totally can, because we have a podcast and he'll like bring it up. He's like, I wonder if he's like, do any of your friends listen to my podcast? Or at the end, he's like, maybe from time to time you guys have seen my article, read it. He's like, probably not. And it's like, that's so what it is, trying to pitch a podcast to your real life friends. You're like, if you listen to it, you listen to it. If you don't, you don't. I understand.
It's also I don't know if you ever experienced this, but it's also like the most embarrassing thing when anyone I know in real life brings up the podcast. I was like, no, that's my online life.
Yeah.
Stop.
Shh. No.
One time
Or someone's
I
like,
was-
oh, what do you have a podcast about? I'm like, it's
Yeah.
about cartoons.
I was we were out at the bar in Seattle visiting our good friend Cruiser, a couple of us. And I don't know why, but we were chatting up some strangers and they're like, what do you do? And Cruiser introduced me as, he goes, yeah, this guy's a podcaster. And for some reason it felt like a slur. I was like, I have a job. Like, I have a real job.
Oh, you're like, well, I can't tell if you're roasting me.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
Felt like a dig.
You're like, I do
yeah.
other things, but yeah,
Yeah.
I am. That's so funny. But yeah, no. So Mr. Fox, though, there is these themes of identity and who you are past a post parenthood, I'd say. But you didn't see any themes of the greed is evil? Like,
I mean, yes, like there's the big capitalism is bad and the bogus bunch of beans.
well, also
and-
Mr. Fox's greed and like, I guess you said ego. I saw it as more like a greedy, selfish move. Because here was the part where he not lost me, but so he does the first heist. He's like, it's my last heist, my grand last heist. He does it, and he's like, yeah, it's a 3-parter. We're hitting them all.
it's a classic one last job.
But so we're making fun of it, but it really is like he took like a classic caper, like a one last heist, but it is a story of animals and foxes, and it's just so. I know we said the animation is beautiful, but story-wise, it's really beautiful also. There's like these really, really intense dialogue scenes between George Clooney and Meryl Streep, which two of the greatest actors of all time, they're playing foxes in Fantastic Mr. Fox. Let's talk about the cast. Can we talk about the cast for a second?
Absolutely.
So, as I mentioned, the leads, we have Mr. Fox and his wife. I'm blanking on her name. I know he
Mrs.
just
Fox.
said.
I think she's mostly referred to as Mrs.
Yeah,
Fox.
she definitely has a name though, and now I'm blanking on it.
Felicity.
Felicity.
Fox.
He said it at the end. Yeah. So Felicity is played by the Meryl Streep, maybe the best actress of all time. George Clooney, considered one of the best. He plays Mr. Fox, and then their son, Jason Schwartzman. Now, look, I love Jason Schwartzman, but I guarantee there's a big population out there that's like, who is this guy?
Has he been in anything that's not by Wes Anderson? I couldn't name a single thing he's in that is
Pretty
not
sure
a Wes
he's
Anderson
in
film.
Wet Hot American Summer, but not the original, the Netflix remake of the
okay.
series.
Now that I say that, I think Jason Schwartzman was in Scott Pilgrim. Is maybe
Yes. He's the villain, and so I really like him. Anytime he's in something, I instantly am like, well, he's also in Moonrise Kingdom. He's in a lot of Wes Anderson stuff, but like you said, what non-Wes Anderson thing?
He also has like a face where every time I see him, I'm like, was he in Big Bang Theory? And I know I literally know he's not, but he just looks
You
like
think
he
he's that one guy? I couldn't name him, but yeah, he's the one dude who looks like him. That's so funny. No, it's not him. He's not in Big Bang Theory. He plays their son, and their son is, in my opinion, Ash is his name. He's one of the more interesting characters in the whole thing.
Yes.
I'm not kidding. This was an 11 out of 10. Like, I really enjoyed this movie. Like, everything about it. I was on the edge of my seat. The dialogue, there's something about a Wes Anderson film where the dialogue feels not like Aaron Sorkin, where they're firing off the wittiest thing you've ever heard at lightning speed, but they're saying really profound, deep things at a good speed, where if you miss it, you're gonna miss it. You know what I mean? But it's wild. It's a really, really well written movie too. I know it's based on a book, but he really knocked his adaptation out of the park.
Yeah. So the screenplay is by Wes Anderson, the director, and also co-written by Noah Baumbach. If you've seen
familiar.
The Marriage Story,
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay.
which is famously
Memed.
semi-autobiographical about Noah Baumbach's life. But also the funny thing about that movie is about his divorce or like his marriage, and then how it subsequently falls apart. And from what I've read, at that time in his life, he was like working on the Madagascar movies.
Why is the Madagascar movies what broke him? He's just like, that's Adam Driver pounding his fist in the wall. He's like, I can't take these lions and zebras anymore.
Yeah. So it's just so funny to think that like that guy's going through all this inner turmoil and co-writing Fantastic Mr.
He's writing about the penguins.
I mean, maybe this was the beginning of that journey of like Noah Baumbach struggling to figure out who he is as an adult.
So this is crazy to me. Ready for this? This is actually a good one. I'm now reading on Wikipedia that so this movie came out, let's see, 2009.
2009. Yep.
This movie was nominated for Best Animated Feature and Best Original Score, and it lost both.
How? What beat it? What?
Okay, yeah, I think it's got a contender, but I think you're going to hate it. It lost
Is it a
both.
Pixar thing?
It is a Pixar thing. Yeah, you got it. It's Up. It lost both of these to Up. What do you think of that?
I love Up, but I
I
don't
do
see it.
too.
I don't see
I
it.
think this is better though.
This is, yeah.
Up
I would
is one
confidently
of-
stake my claim in that.
Up is one of Pixar's more complex and like emotionally driven movies. In all honesty, it is up there for Pixar movies. Like if it was going to lose to a Pixar movie, I'm glad it was this one, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But this is a better movie than Up.
This is a better movie than Up. Absolutely.
But we know the
That's a
Academy
shame.
just views this as just a children's medium, so maybe that plays a part in it. But
I think so.
this is a child's movie, but there's a lot of talk of death. And like there's one scene where they're killing all the birds and they jump down and he goes, "Wow, that was gory. There's a ton of blood and everything." But like we didn't see any of it and they just run out. It was pretty great.
Yeah. And I think that's where they substitute any curse words with the word cuss, and it's so funny.
He goes, "Get the cuss back here." And you know what? Without subtitles, I'll be honest, I think I missed that joke completely.
I would have missed it.
I think as a kid, because I haven't seen this in years. I don't know if I said that. It has been a very long time since I've seen this movie. And I guarantee I just thought it was either like a French word I didn't understand, or you know what I mean? Because I'm pretty sure they're in France from what I've gathered. But I think it takes place in French.
Roald Dahl was a British author, and it's a English book. I think it would have been English.
The only thing is at the very end, they run into a fox and he starts speaking French to the fox. Like, "Oh, parlez-vous français?"
Well, I just watched a featurette on YouTube where Roald Dahl's widow says she was surprised at the casting of George Clooney and Meryl Streep because they're both
thought it was
American, and she goes, "I was surprised because it's a very British book," but she loved their portrayal. So I don't know.
Kind of liked that the animals were all American, but the humans were British. I guess they did have British accents. So yeah, it's probably in Britain. I don't know. I just assumed French because that one French line. But so we haven't finished the cast here, but there's also Bill Murray as Clive Badger Esquire. Now, I think Bill Murray's been in a little bit of heat recently for just kind of being a dick, but I love Bill Murray. I ain't gonna lie.
Yeah, I keep seeing like TikToks of other comedy adjacent people. I think I saw a clip of Seth Green going like, he was just a huge asshole to like other cast members, or I forget what SNL cast member was talking about him, but he was just like kind of rude to younger ones. I don't know. There might have been problematic behavior with women. I'm not exactly sure.
I didn't hear any of that. I've heard people comparing him to Chevy Chase though, and Chevy Chase is like the worst.
I guess they're from the same generation of SNL.
Yeah, well, I'm pretty sure Bill Murray replaced Chevy Chase on SNL, so it's kind of funny.
Okay.
So that'd be funny if that's the case. And they're both famously in Caddyshack, so
remember when Bill Murray was like the thing? Like it was like 2011, 2012. He was. It was like
you could make a Tumblr personality around Bill Murray.
Prior to that, it was like Chuck Norris jokes, and then it was like anecdotes about Bill Murray showing up at your wedding. And
oh my god, that's right, when he was just doing all these kooky things. Yeah. No, you're so right. Yeah, but Bill Murray, he's good in this role though, and he's in a lot of Wes Anderson films too. So what are your thoughts on this? I was thinking about this as I was running through. When a director uses like a lot of actors in most of their movies over and over and over and over.
I personally love it when
I think I love
Wes Anderson does it. Obviously, you would make more money being cast in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but I feel like it's more prestigious and more exclusive to be cast in the Wes Anderson Cinematic Universe.
It's definitely more prestigious, but you have the wrong timing here because Bill Murray is about to be in Ant-Man 3.
Shit. Damn.
We lost him. We lost him.
There are a couple of other overlaps. Willem Dafoe is the rat in this, another frequent Wes Anderson player, famously the Green Goblin.
There's Owen Wilson. Edward Norton was the Hulk.
Is Owen Wilson? He's in Loki. God
he's the number 2 character in Loki, and he killed it. So I totally agree. Wow, I'm just now seeing that Brian Cox is actually in this movie.
He is the News 12 broadcaster.
Are you shitting me? Fuck off. What if Logan Roy was running around yelling, "Cuss off"? Oh my God. I missed that one completely. That's amazing. Yeah. Well, so I agree with you. It's got some weight behind it because he can get large named actors for these small roles. Hell, he got George Clooney and Meryl Streep, who are not normal Wes Anderson players. But he was like, "You guys are the star." And I'm not gonna kid it. They actually stole the show for me, though. There's probably 3 or 4 scenes where they are just looking at one another and they're firing these lines off back and forth, and it's like a verbal fight at times, but they're like they're sparring almost because they're not fighting.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Oh, it's so good.
It's like Marriage Story.
Stop. Why would you say that?
No, it's like they're going. Like,
No, it is, though.
but in a very clippy, like brisk Wes Anderson kind of way. But they're they're having marital squabbles. It's great.
It's really great. I'm gonna jump around because this is like the climax. But he's like,
Yeah.
he literally is feeling remorse for everything he's did. He's like, I'm sorry I did this. I'm sorry. Blah, blah, blah. He lists off all these things, and she's like, it's all right, but I never should have married you. And I was like, oh, but they just move right past it. It's so good. It was really good I try not to say
Telling
this
you,
on the
Marriage
podcast.
Story, dude.
Yeah, it comes all back. He was watching Meryl Streep and George Clooney. He's like, there's a movie here. Oh my God. Yeah, maybe he was having those fights. Maybe he was having those fights with his wife already. That's where it was inspired from.
Yeah.
Yeah, but so then here's one that I thought was interesting. So one of the main characters, Ash's cousin comes to stay with them, Christopherson, which he looks like he's going to be just like a side character in the beginning, but he becomes like the main plot of the whole movie. And he is voiced by Eric Anderson, which is Wes Anderson's brother.
I did not put that together.
Yeah. So nepotism. Whatever. We don't care. I think he did a good job. I didn't recognize his voice, and that's why I had to look it up. I was like, I can almost recognize most of these other voices.
He's also, according to Wikipedia, an author, illustrator, and actor.
That's great.
But it looks like most of his stuff is all of his roles are Wes Anderson.
Or Wes Anderson films, probably, yeah. Very typical. So the stop motion of it adds a level that we have only discussed a little. Like, how much, I don't know. Do you know the process? Does it add a whole ton of time to making a movie like this? I imagine it would have to.
I assume so, because you gotta do little tweaks in between all the shots, and
You can't have these actors improving because you're like, no. His voice is only like his mouth is only moving this many times,
Yeah.
or I gotta go change it. Maybe they do. I don't know.
I think they record all the dialogue first.
First.
Yeah, and then they animate to it.
I guess we've never had this conversation. You think they record all the dialogue first?
Yeah,
What? Why?
because then you have something to animate to.
But then, I guess I get what you're saying, but I almost feel like it's backwards. Like the voice actors need to see what's going on and the characters are doing.
I don't for sure know the order.
I don't
of
know for
things,
sure either, but
this
ahead.
movie, behind the scenes, one thing that they did differently is they didn't do all of the voice acting in booths, everyone sort of in their own booth doing it. They went to like a farm or like a cottage or a cabin, had one boom mic, and did all the dialogue with the actors reading at each other, with each other.
I can't tell if you're
essentially.
best. What?
Literally not. There's YouTube clips of it. I will show it to you. It's like a behind the scenes featurette. I saw it on TikTok. You see like George Clooney sitting at a dinner table and he goes like nibbles on a piece of bread.
Their
And they
eating
have
was
they have
hilarious.
they have a boom mic. And so most of it they record with one boom mic going between the two actors or whoever it is.
I'm not gonna lie, that makes so much sense because, like I'm saying, these scenes between George Clooney and Meryl Streep, that makes sense. Like I don't know how to put my finger on it, but that just having watched those scenes, that makes a lot of sense. That they're face to face, that they're really feeling what each other is saying. Unlike a lot of animation where, they're in the booth, you do it separately. Maybe you do the line a bunch of different times. You're saying they almost acted out these scenes in real life, and then they there's
literally a clip of George Clooney like rolling in the grass, and then they do they'll like walk in place, or the motorcycle scene, they were sitting on like a little ATV thing.
That's amazing. It's a
I
lot
will
of
send
work.
you the clip.
I believe you. I believe you. I
Yeah.
believe you. You're not a
No, it's
jokester like I am.
entertaining.
So, wow. I'm just trying to like wrap my head around. This should have won. This should have
This
won
should have
best.
won.
This should have won best animated
Yeah.
picture. This should have won best film for that year.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding. This is like this. Upon rewatch, like I said, it has been so long. I think I texted Evan maybe like 8 minutes into the film. I said, "Wait, is this movie awesome?" And he said, "Yes." And I was just so blown away, like I said, by the story. How it never dragged. It always kept moving, but it was always so relevant to like the. So there's there's the plot, and then there's like character development, and the two just went so beautifully hand in hand that. For what an hour and a half film, I really feel like I know almost everyone in this film so well, like their motivations, what makes them tick, their insecurities.
And there is a huge cast, but the main through line is sort of Mr. Fox's family. Before we get too much further, I do want to give a quick shout out to my neighbor Ryan, who came up to me one day. I was like, "Hey, I was listening to the pod," and I was super embarrassed. And he's like, "If you guys ever take recommendations, you should talk about Fantastic Mr. Fox. Me and my kids love it." And I was like, "Oh yeah, I love Wes Anderson. That's right up our alley."
Yeah.
Thank you for the suggestion. Sorry it took a little bit for us to get around to it, but thank you. This is one of my favorite movies we've watched this year.
This is why we do this podcast. We want to bring light. Like, this is not new. This is not revolutionary. But I imagine a lot of people like me and Evan were a lot younger when they watched this movie and maybe didn't get to appreciate it for what it like fully is. You could show your kids this movie. They'll love
absolutely.
it.
It's a kid's
But
movie.
as an adult, you'll watch it and you'll be like, "Oh, tragedy, sorrow."
It hits different at 30. I'm like, God damn.
It is. It really does. And that's the sign of a fantastic film.
Yeah.
So a quote unquote fantastic film. Thank you, Ryan. And of course, we take suggestions. We do have a long list of things that we're trying to hit, and we do try to hit things timely sometimes, but we love suggestions. If you have anything that you want us to talk about, let us cuss and know. So
you were talking about Up and how this should have won, but like I do feel like there's such an element of craft that goes into
Yes.
stop motion animation, and you can really feel the artistry come through it. Not to say that there isn't artistry involved in what Pixar does. Obviously, they're like renowned for what they do, but God,
Yeah.
I just love seeing.
Pixar
Like, you
couldn't
can
keep their
visually
schedule if
appreciate-
they were doing this type of film work. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
They had to individually plant the little fucking furs into into the puppets, and like there's one small detail that I saw in one of the featurettes I was watching is like there's the beginning 5 minutes or whatever, and they jump 12 Fox years, and obviously Mr. Fox is aged, and so they like added some gray hairs to his. I was like, God, that's such a tiny detail that I don't know that I even noticed, but I super appreciate that.
I noticed he looked aged. You know what I mean? I don't think I noticed gray hairs, but I noticed he looked 12 Fox years aged. So I think what you're also getting at is with Wes Anderson, we're so used to, I don't want to say used to, because his style is somehow still always like fresh and feels good, not recycled. But, you know, he has, and I don't even know what to call it, but he's always got like the completely flat shot.
Symmetrical.
The symmetrical, his things are always center, if you will. Now, this one breaks away from that at times just due to the fact of probably, you know, it's animation and whatnot. But I don't know how to say this, to translate his real life film style into stop animation is just like remarkable to me. Like, that is artistry, like we're talking about. Like, it'd be like, this is not a great example, but it'd be like a famous painter being like, "Oh, now I'm gonna do a sculpture," and it's like in the same style as they always paint.
So he's obviously very well known for that. Recently, I watched, I think, his first feature film, which is called Bottle Rocket. It came out in 1996. Stars the Wilson brothers, Luke Wilson and Owen Wilson, and it's up there for me as one of my favorite Wes Anderson movies. But I really enjoy it because it's sort of before he has that signature style, so it's not all symmetrical. It's not
he's
all
finding it.
flat.
He's
Yeah,
finding his style.
but the dialogue and sort of the story elements, it's all there. Highly
Something you
recommend
just
it.
said is his visually, his like shots are very interesting, but the flat aspect, I've noticed this. Well, I guess all his shots are flat, but like the more flat it looks, the more fucking like deep it's about to get story wise. Like it's like a contrast. I always say this with Rick and Morty. Part of what makes it so great is it'll skew the two ends of the spectrum, like a fart joke and then like something really dark and sinister. And so this for me, like it's like such a contrast of visually, it's like, you know, they're in a tree or whatever, but like I don't know how to describe, like the conversations have such weight, like Ash, these conversations of, wow, it's a lot more about identity and who you are. Maybe I missed the central theme. I came out of it like,
Yeah.
I get the theme this time.
One of Ash's lines, he goes, "Do you guys think I'm an athlete?"
He says it.
And
he says,
that perfectly illustrates his whole conflict. Is like he just wants his dad's approval. He's
It is one of
struggling
his
with being
first lines.
compared to his cousin Christopherson, and it's just a couple words. He goes, "Do you guys think I'm an athlete?" And he's trying so hard throughout the movie.
and because he's shorter
Perfect.
than the other foxes, I think. Maybe they keep calling him different, and there's so many great. So his mom has the beautiful line, Meryl Streep, Felicity. She was like, "It's okay, you are a little different, but everyone is." And that's what makes life so fantastic. Or I'm butchering the exact line, but it was so beautiful, and the way she delivered it, it was so good. Like her, like the father and the son were both in awe as she like walked away, and I was like, "Oh, that is so good and deep." And then the other one, there's just all these, like he finally comes to accept that he is a bit different. They do the toast at the very end in the grocery store, and they're all holding up apple juice boxes, except for Ash, who is holding up a grape juice box,
Yeah,
which is just like, he's different. It's great.
Yeah.
He finally comes to accept it. But yeah, the whole movie, it is one of his first lines. He goes like, "Do you guys think I'm an athlete?" And they're like, "What? Come on, like get to school or something." And he's at school and they're playing the most complicated sport in more complicated than Quidditch, which I
Yep.
didn't think was possible. And he gets pulled out, and he goes, I don't know why the sports humor was so funny to me. He's
Yeah,
like, "Come
'cause
on, let me just finish this eighth instead of like half or quarter."
they score, and someone yells in the background, "Can you divide that by 9?"
They have to yell "hot box" when
Yeah.
you score 2. It's great.
Real quick, so I jotted down the line that follows the "Do you guys think I'm an athlete?" And Mr. Fox goes, "What's the context here?"
That is so good, but see, it's so quick that you'll miss these things unless you are like fully engaged and paying attention. That is so. He goes, "What's the context here?"
Ever the politician, he was like, "What's the context here?"
Doesn't want to hurt his feelings. Yeah. Oh my God, that is so funny. There's so many of those laugh out loud moments, and a lot of them are with Ash. So he's got his lab partner, and she's very clearly into Christopherson, and he's like, "You're my lab partner." She's like, "We still are." He goes, "Yeah, but you're not very loyal." It's like, it's those feelings as a kid. You're just like, "Oh,
Yeah.
you're my lab partner. How could you have a crush on my cousin?" Like that sentence as an adult doesn't make any sense, but as a kid, it makes perfect sense.
I'm sure there's a million lines we're missing, but like, it's
There really
so
is. I
quick,
at
so
one point
hard.
tried to start writing them all down, and I really failed. It was like it's how the movie starts. You talk about this ego in the movie. Wow, I think you nailed this movie. Did you watch it twice? I bet you watched it twice. Okay, so
No, it's that newfound 30-year-old wisdom.
yes. Oh yeah. I haven't wished you a happy birthday on the podcast. Evan turned 30.
I appreciate
We're
that.
officially like way too old to be talking about cartoons, but that's okay. So yeah, happy belated birthday. I wished him a real happy birthday
did,
too.
he did,
So you talk about this ego from the very jump. I didn't even think about this. Mr. Fox his wife comes back and she was sick. She was at the doctor and she's like, "Oh, she gave me some pills." He's like, "Great, let's go home. Do you want to take the quick route or the scenic route?" She goes, "Let's take the quick route." He goes, "Come on, let's take the scenic route." He just completely ignores what she said. And then he goes, and this is the line that killed me. It's right after he goes, "Do you want to take the quick route or the scenic route?" She goes, "Let's take the quick route." He goes, "Well, we're going to take the scenic route. It's more beautiful that way." And then he goes, it's quicker anyways, I found out. How is it quicker than the quick route? And so this is obviously what it started. They go on a little misadventure, and then he literally says like, oh, do you want to maybe just steal this bird or just head home? And she's like, let's just head home. He's like, one bird wouldn't hurt. He just like completely, he asks the question,
He
but then
steamrolls,
completely ignores whatever she wanted to do. And then, like I said, it was just the speed and like the delivery of all these lines that it makes sense these people were in person doing this together.
I mean, I'm sure it's not maybe as fun for our listeners, but like just recounting some of the dialogue makes me want to go back and watch it without having to take notes or anything.
Yeah.
There's just so much that I missed.
There is. It's really good. Oh, this is what I want to say. I can't believe I wrote this down. I'm looking at my notes now. Every piece of dialogue is so intentional. There's no fluff in this film. Everything really is either letting you know about a character, a relationship dynamic, or it's moving the plot along. Sometimes it's doing all three. It's really, really strong writing that like of things. As we've been reviewing things, you get to see what is like sloppy writing where, and it's not always you can tell if it's sloppy or writing or not, because sometimes it's an actor maybe misdelivering a line. But you become more intentional of, okay, what is this piece of dialogue for? What's the intention of this? Is it humor? Is it character? Is it plot? So you'll be surprised if you start looking at the lens of those things. There's some things that have a lot of lines where you're like, that's not contributing anything right now. You're like, what is this action? And so this one, I really noticed everything was so intentional and like really well done. But there's a lot of dialogue too, because it's really fast. It comes at you quick. And so it's just really impressive. It'd be like, it's the opposite of what I was able to do in high school with my essays, where I'm writing a ton of words that aren't saying a lot. You know what I mean? They're doing even more words on their essay than I was and still getting in more info. So it's impressive.
That was one thing I did pick up on. It's just like, the script efficiency.
Yeah.
They don't bother over explaining exposition. Early in the movie, he's meeting with like his lawyer or like
when he's trying to buy the tree
he's trying to get a loan, right? Something like that. And they just like cut right into they're talking the terms of the deal or whatever.
Yeah.
And they don't like slow down to say like, oh, if I don't get this loan, I can't do this. Like, and it's a kids movie, and it's just like kids are like people who are going to watch this are smart enough, and they.
Context clues are amazing. Community is really good at this too, because I've been rewatching Community. Is they will throw a piece of dialogue that is like referencing something that we missed off screen or whatever to give you all of that. So you're right. We didn't see a scene of him being like, I got to go to the bank. We really need this loan or I'll never get this house. It was one line of him being like frustrated. And he's like, buy the house, whatever it takes. And you understand what's going on in that scene. And so another thing you were saying, and this is the directing hat, I believe, is there's the scene. So at the end where they pull off the grand heist where they're digging him out, everything's gone to hell. And he's like, they come in with all the goods from all three farms and they're like, we took everything. Cut to the three old farmers and they're like, they took everything. And I'm like, that is such a good scene contrast dialogue, and it hits humor wise. And I go, someone who's like a novice writer is not going to be able to use like an editing trick as humor. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, it's so good in my opinion. Everything in this movie was so strong.
Yeah. And there are a lot of visual gags in this movie too. And you could probably say that about a lot of Wes Anderson movies. I think that's one of the things that maybe are not as explicitly praised all the time. Yeah. But there were a couple of things that stood out to me in this movie. One is when one of their first heists, there's security camera footage where there's like 5 security screens and you watch them do the heist through the different screens. And it was just beautifully constructed. Yeah. And then there's this other visual gag towards the end of the movie when they're going into the big fortress with the walls, and there's that like parking arm or whatever.
Yeah.
And then their little motorcycle just goes right
Just goes right under it. Yeah, there's small moments like that are so good. There's another one I really liked where it's the very end. They come out of the sewer grate. You know, they're throwing the fire pine cones everywhere, and they run and they like see this motorcycle with a sidecar, and they like run around it. And they like take off in a tinier one that was behind the, and it's like you think they're about to get on this, and there's so many visual gags because when you're looking at them too, and they're all animals, they look normal size. Like actually, Mr. Fox looks very tall, actually, but then as soon as you put humans in the frame, or they go to like the supermarket or their kitchen, they're tiny, and you're like, oh yeah, wait, they're just foxes. It's so good. It's really good visually because it really distorts you're like, whoa, this kitchen is giant, and you're like, no, the foxes are tiny. I forgot, foxes are not human size.
This is a random thought, but that last shot in the movie, they're zooming out of the grocery store while they're
Feasting.
dancing. And part of me was like, how do you do that with stop motion? Because like you have this smooth crane shot that slowly zooms out, but then also like each little dance, like, you have to like pause the thing.
Are you like
I would love
pausing
to be behind
every
the
moment
scenes.
back? No, because it's so smooth though. You're
Yeah,
right.
I
That's
know.
it's got to be
I'd love to
editing,
see
I
it.
imagine, right? Like really impressive editing work though. That's
would love to
crazy.
see
I didn't
that.
even think about that, like a moving crane work. The technical aspects, all the work that probably went into this film to lose up. Those people I bet you there's people that cried that
Probably.
worked on this film that were like 3 years of my life. It wasn't just an honor to be nominated.
Yeah. One of the things with French Dispatch, I had seen some discourse on Twitter. I don't know how big of a conversation it was, but I don't think that got any nods really. But for its production design specifically, they were specifically referencing this person on Twitter. The shot where what's his name? Jim Gordon. I'm blanking
Gary
on his-
Oldman.
No, not Gary Oldman. The new one. The new Jim Gordon.
J.K. Simmons?
No, in the Batman. Whatever. He's in French Dispatch.
Yeah, he's
but where
the
he walks
ape.
through the whole police
Andy
station.
Serkis.
No, Jim Gordon. Andy Serkis is Alfred.
Oh,
I don't know why I can't think of his name.
Bernard in Westworld.
Yes.
Now I can't think of his name either. I just listed every Jim Gordon, and I'm not going to be able to list the most recent one. What
is
is
his
he
name?
in this?
He's in French Dispatch. He's not in this movie.
Oh, yes.
I'm saying people were upset, at least on Twitter. They were, shocker. But as he's walking through the police station, he goes through like a whole maze of rooms, and it's one continuous shot, and he's doing this monologue, and there's like a
know the
lot of
scene you're
production
talking
and like craft that I think should have gotten at least a nod.
I got you.
Anyways,
No,
that was
that's
too
fair.
long of
It's fair.
a tangent. But what is
That's
it?
fair. The Academy is flawed. We've never argued otherwise.
Yeah.
So with this movie, though, I really think it is important that if you, like, I guess I already hit on this, but like the technical work that went into this, Wes Anderson like had to map out so many different things in his mind, story, characters like this, and then also have to worry about the little hairs on the fox and whatnot. Like, it's crazy to think about, like, if you are working on a group project, this is like 12, 13, 14, 15 different group projects that he's managing all at once. And so I am not going to lie. Like I said, after French Dispatch, I had maybe forgotten how much I love Wes Anderson. This movie is in contention for my favorite Wes Anderson movie with Moonrise Kingdom.
Yeah.
And I praise Moonrise. I recommend that movie to every person who's like, oh, I need a new movie. What should I watch? Have you seen this? No. Boom.
Yeah.
You should.
Totally agree. Love Wes Anderson. Love his aesthetic. I should rewatch French Dispatch.
That's kind of my problem. I should probably rewatch it. But he also has Grand Budapest Hotel. We haven't even said anything about that. Wes Anderson has such an eclectic catalog that is so stylized.
Yes.
It's really funny that we talk about him and Tim Burton at similar times because he's another one. You can look at a film of his and be like, is this a Wes Anderson film? If you don't know. And so I think that takes extreme talent. It takes years to have such like a stylized, to have like a trademark on that stylized of a film. But I feel like, how do I want to say this? So while The Corpse Bride maybe lacked because it was trying to fit that stylization so much, I feel like Wes Anderson uses it to like elevate the story. Does that make sense? Like it's not like he is he's never detracting from a moment to be like, oh, look at this quirky shot I've got. It's all very intentional. Like the shot of the wolf at the end, like when they're just staring back at the wolf. We haven't even talked about that. That he's got a phobia of wolves, which any good fox should have. But they run into one at the very end of their heist, like after they've rescued Christopherson and they're on their way out. And what did you think of this scene where they're yelling at the wolf, or what did you think?
I guess I haven't really thought or processed it yet. I think it's obviously him sort of conquering a fear and a phobia of his, but it's also like his acknowledgement of where he is in life. Like maybe he was intimidated by this thought of settling down and not being the fantastic Mr. Fox. And now he's sort of come to accept it. And as a reflection of that, the wolf accepts him and gives him like
that was a little odd, but that's fine. So they it was symbolic though. It was really great. And you literally nailed what I was gonna say. So he was like, I have a phobia of wolves, but then at the end of the thing he goes, what a beautiful creature. And it was him coming to that realization. His fear was he always wanted to dazzle everyone he met. He wanted to be the fantastic Mr. Fox to everyone. And he conquered like, I am the fantastic Mr. Fox to my family. They're who matters. Like, what do I need to prove to the rest of these people?
What a nice wrap up.
It was such a great wrap up. And it was so weird because the wolf scene, I was like, where's this going? But then as soon as he said, what a beautiful creature, it all clicked for me. I was like, he conquered a fear. And I go, oh, he conquered his fear of wolves and of not being the fantastic Mr. Fox the quote unquote fantastic Mr. Fox he always dreamed of. It's really good.
We were talking about his aesthetic, and I think you're right. It always does elevate it. It's never like exclusively for the purpose of just being an aesthetic. Sometimes it lays out a visual gag. Sometimes it's just like storytelling efficiency, the way I don't know. I love everything about it.
What I've taken is when it's two people that are talking to each other, or like the wolf scene, is like the background is so important to how you're supposed to be like feeling about this conversation. And it's just such small, subtle things that I wouldn't be able to be like, oh, and if you look here, well, I guess like the wolf is an interesting example. Is the wolf has like a wintry background, whereas they're not in winter yet. And he has the line of like, you think it's going to be a rough winter? And he goes, I don't think he knows. So like, but like the wintry background is, the winter is like the sign of change. If you're talking tarot cards, it's the death card. And so it is that
sign.
sign.
Into tarot?
I like a little tarot here and there. Yeah, sorry. I didn't mean to drop that on you randomly.
No, it's a surprise. It's a delightful surprise.
Not many people know that about me, actually. So
we got to do a tarot reading on the box.
I don't have any tarot cards. I watch a lot of YouTube videos. Now I'm really outing myself. So the death card, it symbolizes, people think the death card's like scary, but no, it's like, it's a sign of that rebirth, that change that's coming. I think that wintry background was really symbolic of him conquering those fears, that sign of change to come. So it's just small things like that just really enhance this movie.
Yeah.
We can hit it with the closing thoughts. I'm like out of breath. The movie, ready for this? The movie made my heart flutter at times. It made my heart speed up. Yeah. And then I'm not kidding. There's really something with these scenes because I keep coming back to them. But where George Clooney and Meryl Streep's characters are just talking back and forth to each other, they're somber. They're like melancholy. But you see it in these foxes' faces, which is amazing.
Yeah, they get like real close up to these puppets too.
Yes.
Like you get straight up just his face. Sometimes just their eyebrows moving.
Yes,
super expressive puppets.
She slaps him. She goes, I'm going to lose my temper. He's like, when? She's like, I don't know, but I'm going to lose it. He's like, well, okay, but when? And then she slaps him. Oh my God. Now I'm just realizing this now. It's that ego of him. He's so used to calling the shots back to the beginning when he was like, what do you want to do? This or that? And she's like, option B. And he's like, we're going to do option A. He's like, he's trying to control when he's like, well, that's fine. You can be angry, but you just need to tell me when so I can expect it. And she doesn't. She like catches him off guard and she slaps him and it leaves a scar. Oh my, and the scar. Damn, dude, this movie's so cussing good. I can't even. Okay, the scar is the physical impact of the hurt that he places on his family because of his greed, because of his ego. And it really takes her physically lashing out to him for him to be like, oh,
Wake up.
I need to change. Yeah.
Yeah. That's deep.
It's good. It's really good. Honestly, it's a really human story about foxes. That's what's so amazing is it tells so many human emotions. This is a better Zootopia. I said it. They need to make it. Disney Plus needs to make a 6-part series about this.
I've never seen Zootopia, but
Zootopia is good. I'm ragging on it. It's just not like I feel like there's some people who like love Zootopia, and I'm like, you should like Zootopia. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this movie is great. Before we wrap up, let's do some Letterboxd reviews.
Yes.
I don't know if you
Yes.
found any.
I have them up. Let me pull up the app here again. You can cut
The first one
out.
I got is
Yeah.
4.5 stars. This person wrote, how does Steven Soderbergh sleep at night knowing the best movie in the Ocean's trilogy is a stop motion puppet animation directed by Wes Anderson? I forget that George Clooney was doing those movies around this time.
That's right.
Very true.
Well, that's why that's part of like, I don't know if Wes Anderson was like, hey, this is a heist movie. Like, you are the heist guy. Like, it was about halfway through the movie where I literally was like, oh, George Clooney is the heist guy.
Yeah.
How do I not remember that?
But also, so I was watching one of their production, behind the scenes thing, and they were talking about the cast, and when they were looking for the 2 lead roles, they're like, who is the modern day Cary Grant, who's like the classic Hollywood stud, and
Yeah.
they all came to George Clooney, which he absolutely is. And I feel like he kind of slowed down after this period, and he's been under the radar, or
Sure.
doing
he
other
doesn't.
stuff. Who knows?
He can do whatever he wants at this
He's got
point.
like a
You know what I
rom-com
mean?
out right now, but
Yeah.
that's his first thing in a while. I'm think he like did the Casamigos tequila thing. Is he the blueprint for Ryan Reynolds?
Oh, interesting. Because now he's got his whole gin.
Yeah,
Or
I think
is
he was
he
one
the
of-
John H. Benjamin blueprint now that he's got his
yeah,
own line
true.
of whiskey?
I went to the optometrist the other day, and my optometrist sounds just like him. He's got like John Benjamin. He's got that nasally. Looking into this dude's eyes, I was like, "You sound so much like Bob's Burgers."
Oh my God. Okay, so I have my first Letterboxd review, and it also reminded me of one of the best moments in the whole film we didn't talk about. So, oh my God. Okay, 4 stars, which, I was going to actually only read 5-star films, but so 4 stars. Everyone is like, oh, Ash is totally me. Okay, I'm the evil rat voiced by Willem Dafoe who ends up dead in the sewer. And I can't believe we forgot to talk about the end scene where the rat is dying, and they're like, what did you? He gives them all the information as to where Christopherson is, and so they're like, what did you always want in life? And he's like, I wanted to try the cider, and so they give him, because it floods, they give him a little bit of the cider, and it was his last wish, and he died. And then Ash, the son, goes, he redeemed himself, and then the dad goes, redemption, yeah. But he's just another dead rat behind a Chinese food restaurant. And then they just lower him into the sewer, and he just drifts off. And I was like,
Woof.
whoa. I was like, damn. To me, it's like almost like the Game of Thrones, like the god of death comes for us all. Like, sure, he redeemed himself, but he's just another dead rat. It's chilling.
Yeah.
Saying it
It's
again just gave me
nihilistic in a
goosebumps.
way.
It's what?
Yeah. It's nihilistic in a way. It's just
Oh,
like,
it is. It really is. It makes
all
me think
just
like,
small.
it doesn't matter what we do here. We're all just dead rats in the dumpster behind a Chinese food restaurant. Ooh. In a kid's movie. Maybe that's why the Academy was like, this is not a kid's movie.
4.5 stars. This one is a similar vein as the first one I read. Even in animation, George Clooney won't stop assembling teams of specifically skilled, diverse groups of elaborate heists. Yeah, love it.
All right. So this is a good one. It is 5 stars, but this movie isn't without its flaws, which I think I could argue. But it says this movie is not without its flaws, but it goes the extra mile in every single way that I can overlook the bad Wes Anderson-y dialogue, which I don't think is bad, moments, for the outpour of charm and love and care in every single shot and every scene. It's such a short part, but the danger of death fight is a terrific use of stop motion specific style, and the final sequence is one of the happiest, most wonderful scenes I can remember. This movie makes me feel so good.
I disagree with the first couple sentences of that about there being anything bad about this movie. Like, what
Yeah.
was bad?
Yeah, well, they said
don't
the
know.
Wes Anderson-y dialogue, but they gave it 5 stars still. So
Okay.
I think this really hit, like you said, like what we were saying is Wes Anderson uses his style to enhance scenes. He uses stop animation to enhance the scenes. Like they were saying, that fight between the rat and Mr. Fox here, it was so good with the electricity and like the lights going in and out. This is art. This is art at its highest form. And the fact that the Academy couldn't see that, I'm rioting. Just kidding.
Yeah. All right. 5 stars. This maybe kind of speaks to a little bit of what we're talking about. First quote from the movie. What's the subtext here? This person writes, realized with this rewatch that a key part of the Anderson aesthetic is the way his characters speak candidly, without any subtext at all. We refer to the style as deadpan, but it occurs to me that the performances are just as stripped down as the language itself. There's little for the actors to play because the characters are almost always speaking their minds. This comes off as comic and absurd, but it's also honest, which keeps the films moored in a physical and emotional reality. It goes on for more, but that's so
That
true.
is so true.
Such a great way
They
to put
are.
it.
Yeah. Do you guys think I'm an athlete? What's the context here? No, it's right out of the gate. They speak. It's not deadpan. There's no subtext, but it's really beautiful and it's charming in a way. Whereas it is, because if we all talked like that to each other, we would be very off put. You know what I mean? There's something very charming about the way he does it. Okay, so this one is 5 stars. Only Wes Anderson would construct a miniature electric train set on a slightly larger stop motion animation set. It's
Well, that was towards the end, right? The train goes by.
There's a few trains. Ooh,
Okay.
I wonder if that's trains are symbolic. So there's the scene in the beginning where Christopherson is like, "Hey, do you think you could move your model train? Like, it's kind of hard sleeping under it." And so then he goes, he's like, "You're really being a jag right now, man." Like, he's like, "Do you just want my bed? Like, I don't understand. Like, we give you, what do you need?" And so he's like, "No, it's fine." And he goes under and he's asleep and he's crying there. And then Ash comes down and he starts the train and they just watch it together. And it's really nice because then as it cuts from that to like a scene of their new home and the things, and there's a real train crossing. And there's trains at the end. There's trains throughout this film. And I wonder, I don't know any symbolisms relating to trains, but I bet you we're missing a big red flag staring us in the face.
So, what would you rate it? What would you give this on Letterboxd?
I would give this a 5. I'm not kidding. I think that this film, like when we're talking of what we want out of an animated film, I think this hits every single box. I don't see anything to give it besides a 5.
I would
What
agree
about
with that.
Yeah.
Is this our first 5 of the pod?
Yeah, it is. And it really caught me off guard. I really expected, I remember liking this movie as a kid. I was like, oh yeah, what a great film. But I haven't seen it throughout the years. So it just kind of got lost in translation. And so upon rewatching it, I literally was like, this is everything I want out of an animated film. I was so enjoyed my ride throughout the whole thing. Not saying there are things we cover where, I don't enjoy them, but this was just on such another level. This was art.
Yeah. I would also give it a 5. And I think it just comes through in the way we're talking about it. We really didn't talk really any plot at all, which I think is maybe a good indicator. Sometimes we talk heavily about the plot because we don't have much more to say about the thing that we're covering. But this is one of those experiences where you watch the movie and it's just such a delightful experience.
Yeah.
It's so joyous, perfect film to me. I'm so glad we revisited this.
Thank you, Ryan.
Yeah, thank you, Ryan.
We should wrap up with some news before we get going here. But if you've made it through this podcast being like, oh, I watched that like 10 years ago, like what a great movie, go
Watch it again.
Go rewatch it right now. You're gonna just fall in love with it. It's really good. Let's get to
Also
the news.
great for this time of year. It's
It
like
is
a cozy fall movie.
You're so
Lots
right.
of feasts, lots of food happening.
Toasts. There's
Throw it
lots
on
of
for
feasts, lots of
Thanksgiving.
toasts.
Yeah, lots of toasts. Okay, let's do. Actually, before we get into news,
Yep.
we touched briefly on a couple of other Wes Anderson movies. Are there any other ones you'd recommend?
Moonrise Kingdom, which I said a bunch of times. Grand Budapest Hotel. There's another one that I'm forgetting. Oh my god, I love it so much. What about you? What do you recommend?
Royal Tenenbaums, I think.
Oh
is
yes,
an
thank you. I
all-time
knew. I was thinking
classic.
Ben Stiller. Yes.
Ben Stiller. Which one? Oh yeah, it is Royal. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Royal Tenenbaums.
I was like, don't make me feel crazy.
Yeah, I think I need to rewatch Life Aquatic. That
Oh
one stars
yeah, the Steve Zuko
Bill
or whatever.
Murray.
Yeah,
Steve Zissou.
you're right. Yeah.
Man, all of them are pretty much bangers. Darjeeling Limited. I don't remember if I particularly loved it. It was a fine movie. I think.
Yeah. It's good. It's good. Yeah, those are my recommendations if you want to check out more. All right, now we've teased it so many times. So, news. You got one? I got one out of the gate if you're not ready.
Go for it.
All right. Sad news. The creator of Sonic the Hedgehog was arrested. 57-year-old game designer Yuji Naka was arrested for insider trading. Do you know what that means? I only read a little bit of the article, but I'm pretty sure that means he was like, hey guys, Sonic is about to have a banging game that drops. Buy stock now.
Yeah. It's
He knew the game was going to be so great that they just dropped. He was like, Sonic stock about to go through the roof. I haven't played it, but I've heard amazing things about the game.
Is this the open world one that's like coming to Switch?
Yeah, it's an open
or
world
something?
Sonic game. It's really fresh, but old mechanics. Brings back a lot of throwbacks, but it's new. So
I wonder if he was giving insider tips because there is a new Netflix series, Sonic Prime, coming out. It looks to be like they're cashing
you know
in
what?
on
I'm reading the
multiverse.
article a little more, and it's actually in his. It's related to his new installment called Dragon Quest, which I don't know anything about. So he was like,
Quest,
I got
is
a project on the
video
works.
game franchise that maybe Akira Toriyama was involved in or did some of the initial artwork for of Dragon Ball. Right? Let me double check that. Also,
yeah,
I looked
you
it up
absolutely-
earlier. Jeffrey Wright was the actor's name. We could not think.
Oh, thank you. That was driving me nuts. Okay, so
Love Jeffrey Wright.
we were talking a little bit about our boy Owen Wilson. He is going to be playing. What is the guy's name? Who does the paintings of the happy little trees?
Bob Ross.
Bob Ross.
Is it a Bob Ross biopic or is it? Because I don't think the character's name was Bob. I think they named him.
Oh,
something
maybe
else, but he
he's
very
playing
much
a
looks like-
parody of Bob Ross. Okay, sorry. I only briefly looked at it.
He's
but,
playing Carl Nagel.
Oh, well,
Comes
that's
out
not Bob
April
Ross.
20th.
So maybe I'm
Looks-
mistaken.
I think it's a parody of the character.
Okay. Interesting.
First trailer for the new Pixar movie Elemental is out. It looks to be a city of little clouds and little embers and little raindrops.
Classic
A
Pixar.
romance Pixar movie.
It's going to be emotional. Get ready, ladies and gentlemen.
All right, we posted about this, but I think we should talk about it.
Yeah.
On November 10th, Kevin Conroy, the voice actor who played Batman from the 90s through the present day through various properties, tragically passed away. I don't know. That one like hit me hard and got me
Did.
kind of emotional
So,
just because we talk about him a
context-wise,
lot. Yeah.
Me and Evan, we just did our Batman podcast back in March. We were considering getting a Kevin Conroy cameo. We like heavily talked about it, but there was we were going to do a bit where we made it sound like we were interviewing him, and so we were going to edit his cameo to do this, and it was just kind of a bit gray area to explain to him, like, hey, can we get a cameo, but it's for a bit for our podcast, and so we ultimately decided against it because it was a little expensive as well. But if I'm being honest, we really should have just gone for it. We should have just said cuss it and done it.
Yeah.
Like I really regret that now. And it's not
Yeah.
many examples of like regret in real time, but to think of how fun and enjoyable that would have been. Yeah, we should have done it.
And that's fine.
I know.
But I don't know. It seems huge, and you can see a huge outpouring of love coming
leaving
from
flowers
fans
at the
And I think
Batman statue.
Yeah, he like really loved portraying the character. Like you'll see clips of him doing, the reading at different like panels and stuff, and just such a genuine care for the character. DC in Remembrance, he had done that short story for them in their Pride anthology that came out in June, but they did put it out for free online, so you can read that. I don't know, kind of a somber
Yeah.
story, but wanted to pay tribute to him because such a huge influence, the DC animated universe, on my
both
love for
of us.
cartoons.
Yeah.
Yeah, for both of us.
Andrew Cho said it best. He is the Batman for a whole generation.
In other sort of somber news, the new Black Panther came out, which we'll be talking about coming up soon. And maybe on a lighter note, awesome movie. But Kevin Smith, have you seen this on Twitter? Kevin Smith posted a picture, the Clerks guy, posted a picture of him in the theaters, and he's like crying in the theaters, but he's kind of getting roasted for it because he looks absolutely insane.
You did send me the tweet. Yeah. I mean, sorry. I don't mean to laugh.
Yeah.
It is a tear-worthy moment. It's a good movie.
Yes.
But I'll be honest, and maybe this is showing that I'm not sympathetic, but anytime someone posts a video or a photo of themselves crying, something is lost for me. Because when I'm in a real
Yep.
bout of crying, the absolute last thing I want to do is have anyone see that. You know what I mean? So there is something always lost. And I'm not saying there aren't videos and photos of people who are legitimately feeling things, but that's just always part of my feeling on it. Whenever I see a video of someone crying, I just can't help but think,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah, I mean, on the spectrum of like, I'm not saying this is what Kevin Smith is doing. On the spectrum of like influencer engagement bait, I think this is probably some of the more earnest, sentimental sort. But the opposite end of that is, that TikToker Soups, or little kid
Dude.
who wears this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know Soups. Followed
the-
and unfollowed him quickly.
Yes, quickly. But when Black Adam came out, during the Henry Cavill tag at the end or whatever,
Yeah.
he's in theaters. He recorded his reaction, has someone a couple rows down from him filming upwards at him. When Henry Cavill comes out, he stands up from his seat and goes, "Yeah!" And I'm watching this clip like, you cussing
He knew that he was being recorded.
douche canoe. Yeah. No, he's put someone there to record
Yeah,
it.
that's what I'm saying. So that,
How disruptive to every other theater goer.
yeah.
No, man, I would have words with that guy.
Well, I got a lot of problems with that guy. Someone one time said that guy doesn't like movies. He likes PowerPoint presentations with cameos, and I was like, "That's really
Yes,
funny."
that's
'Cause
exactly what it is.
yeah, I'll never forget that. I go, he likes PowerPoints. That's so funny. I think that's about it for news. You have anything else that's greatly pressing?
No.
No. I think
I
we're
got
good. There was the Studio Ghibli, Grogu, Lucasfilm short film.
Yeah.
I don't know. You could call it a film. You could just call it a short.
Okay, this is bonus portion of the episode. This is
Yeah.
our review of that.
People didn't know what they were signing up for. They're also getting a review.
It was so much hype.
So much hype for so
love that it
little.
happened.
Review done. It was
Yeah.
it was very short and nothing happened. It was literally just a series of drawings that were animated. If I'm being honest.
Yeah.
Grogu met the
hand-drawn.
Dust Bunnies from Spirited Away, and
I
it
was so
fun.
excited. I was
I know.
texting Brizard. I was like, whatever it is, we got to go hard on this. Like, I can't wait till this comes out.
they
Then they say
announced
it's
it.
coming out tomorrow, and I was like, oh, okay. I guess we don't have time to prepare. And then they're like, it's a short. It's like, all right. And then I watched it, and I texted Brizard afterward. I was like, more of a screensaver than a short.
Yeah.
There's not a whole lot.
It's legit 3 minutes with credits, and so yeah, I mean, it's cool. It's a historic crossover event, but with their shoot, what is the show now? I can't even think of it. What's the name of their Jedi show where it's all anime? The Star Wars
Visions.
Visions, thank you. Oh my God. I was hoping we were getting more Visions-esque, but Studio Ghibli. Like, I thought that's where this was going. But maybe it's a sign of things to come down the road. So fingers crossed. But it is a historic crossover, I guess you could say.
A little teaser for what's coming up next. We're going to do a little non-animated stuff coming up.
Oh, yeah.
We are doing a bit of a superhero roundup for the end of the year. Got a special guest coming back on, Jesse Gill, to talk about She-Hulk and Black Adam and Black Panther. If you haven't seen Black Panther, at least go and watch that. If you haven't seen She-Hulk, go watch that. Black Adam,
Don't you dare. Go see them all. If you did that order, you would say go watch She-Hulk before Black Adam. Okay, well, we're going to have words next podcast, so that'll be fun. Yeah, thanks again for joining us, everyone. Oh, this is where I'm going to do my thing. I don't have my notes app up, but what you can do is you could, if you are enjoying listening to us, we have a ton more episodes. Go check them out on Apple, Spotify, also on YouTube as well now. You can follow us at Two Dudes Watch Cartoons on both Instagram and TikTok. And please, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, give us a rate and review. It definitely helps us out. Not even going to plug our Twitter, because it's going under, right? Just kidding. So we didn't even talk anything about Elon. You know what? Good. Yeah. He doesn't need any more free press. Okay. And if you want, you can follow us at Two Dudes Watch on Twitter.
All right. That'll do it for this episode. We will catch you next time.
Two dudes watch cartoons.